Welcome to Hameen Loyal. This is Eric Grissom.
And I'm Dan Johnson. Eric and I will be rewatching the iconic Twin Peaks from the pilot through the return and everything in between.
While we will be spoiling everything that happens in whatever we're covering, know that we will not ruin future stories. So, if this is your first time watching, or if you're a longtime fan, you can watch along with us as we dive deep into the strange and wonderful world of Twin Peaks and David Lynch.
Inside a dream.
Today on Meanwhile, we are tackling episode number 2, Dan. This is Zen, or The Skill to Catch a Killer. Boy, I am very excited.
I cannot wait. Since, like I said in a previous episode, I can't remember the last time I actually watched the entire series through. Since we last recorded, I have watched this episode 4 times.
It's a good one.
Which is not a thing I tend to do a lot of. But I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, I will say this. I will say this about Zen or the Skill to Catch a Killer. If you are new to Twin Peaks and you're watching this with us for the first time, and you've gotten to this episode and you don't like it or connect with the show, I would say bail now.
Tuck and roll.
Like that's no hard feelings. We'll see you on another time zone, but I feel like this, if you're either gonna connect with it or you're gonna go running screaming.
Yeah, all of the weird, maybe absurdities or eccentricities that we've seen from characters in previous episodes leading to this point pale in comparison to what goes on from here on out. So
this is episode number 2. This is Zen, or The Skill to Catch a Killer. It's written by Mark Frost and David Lynch, directed by David Lynch. David Lynch is back. It premiered Thursday, April 19th, 1990 at 9 p.m. on ABC. Once again, hot off Father Dowling and his mysteries. And again, Max Monroe. Cheers / Wings. It safely takes second place. It crushes Max, but Cheers is
Wings.
Cheers.
Actually, after this, we're going to do a bonus Wings rewatch podcast.
Okay.
So
I actually used to enjoy Wings.
I did as well.
Yeah.
But, all things change.
Can't tell you much about it other than they were prop plane flyers.
They were. I think they're also called pilots.
We're not here to talk about Wings. We're here to talk about Twin Peaks, Dan, and let's just jump right into it.
Sounds good to me. Let's rock.
Actually, let's stop for a second, because I've been meaning to mention this every time we did the show, and I keep forgetting.
Okay.
If you watch this on TV, you watch the regular show with the opening, and it went through the show. If you watch it on Netflix or it's on Paramount Plus, you're going to watch just the regular show. But there was a period of time when the show was syndicated on Bravo that David Lynch wrote and the Log Lady starred in, these Log Lady intros, which are really cool. It's just like maybe a minute and a half of the Log Lady talking about kind of something that relates in a way to what you're going to see in that episode. They're very cool, especially the first one. If you watch the one for the pilot, it's really cool.
Welcome to Twin Peaks. My name is Margaret Lanterman. I live in Twin Peaks. I am known as the Log Lady. There is a story behind that. There are many stories in Twin Peaks. Some of them are sad, some funny. Some are stories of madness, of violence. Some are ordinary, yet they all have about them a sense of mystery. The mystery of life, sometimes the mystery of death. The mystery of the woods surrounding Twin Peaks. To introduce this story, let me just say it encompasses the all. It is beyond the fire, though few would know that meaning. It is a story of many, but it begins with one. And I knew her. The one leading to the many is Laura Palmer. Laura is the one.
People have taken that audio and have cut like Twin Peaks edits to it. But I just wanted to highlight it because I feel like we're talking about all of these parts of Twin Peaks, and I feel like I'm doing a disservice by not saying there's, the Log Lady intros. And if you buy the Blu-rays, which is the best way to watch the show, in my opinion, you can watch the intros or not the intros.
That's incredible. I just learned something new today, folks. I had no
look at that.
idea.
Little fun facts. It's Fun Fact Friday on a Wednesday. Today feels like a Friday.
And if you can believe it, it's a Friday once again.
Felt like a Friday all day.
It feels like a Fun Fact Wednesday. Well, this is why I'm so glad to be doing this rewatch with you in particular, since you just...
Yeah, is it mental illness?
Well, it's a productive one anyway. It's an entertaining one at the very least. But no, I get to learn a couple of these new things. But Eric, let's get into this. Let's rock.
I also awoke from the same dream, realizing that I had subconsciously gained knowledge of a deductive technique involving mind-body coordination operating hand in hand with the deepest level of intuition. Sheriff, Deputy Hawk, if you will please assist me, I will now demonstrate.
We open on a very quiet dinner at the Hornes, quite literally a quiet dinner. They sit in silence until we meet Ben's brother, Jerry, who's just arrived from Paris with a brie and butter sandwich. Jerry learns that the deal fell through and Laura is dead, and to lift their spirits, Ben decides to take his brother up north, where a new girl awaits at One-Eyed Jack's.
Yeah, this is the most awkward dinner ever. Actually, no, everyone's totally chill with how uncomfortable it is. Ben's just sitting there, minding his own business, eating. We got Johnny is the only one that seems to actually be having fun, playing with his food and laughing every once in a while.
He's on his own journey.
Yeah, he's got his own thing going on there. But then Jerry comes flying in, and chaos ensues with him. He doesn't have a sandwich. He has 4 sandwiches packed away in his suitcases. So he has all the bellhops rummaging through his
everybody's got to find the
sandwich.
I've been chasing this sandwich my entire life.
It's just brie and butter on a baguette.
I've tried to make it several times. It just is wonderful. That whole sandwich scene and the joy and the memories that come from it. And again, I mentioned last time, like, there's the cheese thing, the cheese eaters. We get the brie and butter sandwich. A little later, we're even going to get a smoked cheese pig.
So whenever Jerry arrives, that's when, this really kicks into gear. And we have Jerry finds the sandwiches and gives Ben one, and they're eating them. The way that Ben Horne eats the sandwich sideways, bites into it like he looks like a ravenous wolf. Just like going for the jugular, biting into this animal. And what are they saying whenever he says, what this reminds me of? Are they saying that it reminds them of some girls they used to date?
Yeah, I mean, the best I can make out is the time they were hanging out with Ginny and Jenny down by the river. But that becomes a motif that repeats with them as well. Like, they have these childhood memories of past stories and stuff.
The taste of the sandwiches remind them of these girls. It's just such a... I don't know, this weird foreshadowing.
Yeah, I just take that as just a funny.
I don't think so. I don't find anything about either of them funny at all.
I love the two of them. They are awful, philandering people, but I love these two characters. They are some of the best characters I think ever on television. Well, first off, David Patrick Kelly, who plays Jerry Horne, is one of my favorites. Like, you'll probably recognize him. He was in The Crow.
You can't be you. We put you through the window. There ain't no coming back.
Oh, he's in The Warriors.
Warriors, come out to play.
He's in so many movies, but I had known him at that point. Dreamscape.
In this world, you're nothing, Alex. And me, I'm God.
Yep. He's in Commando.
It'll give everyone a little more time with your daughter.
You're a funny guy, Sully. I like you. That's why I'm going to kill you last.
Jeez, Dreamscape,
He is amazing. Yeah. And he continues to be amazing throughout the series. And in pretty much, I don't think I've ever seen that actor in something where I didn't love him in it. So I'm a fan of him anyway.
Sure.
And I love those brothers. I find them like relentlessly entertaining.
Don't get me wrong. I think they're both incredibly effective. The characters, they're so unsettling to me. I don't find them like, they're like,
they're awful.
They're awful. So I'm not saying I think they're, the actor's not doing a good job. No, I think they're actually incredibly effective and really good in that they make me so uncomfortable. It's really very good.
I definitely look forward to whenever, especially Jerry is on screen. Although I'm a huge fan of Ben. I think he's also great. Richard Beymer. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. But both of them are great.
When Jerry's like, Ben tells him that the Laura's dead and that the deal fell through. He's like talking about the deal first, and it's almost like, oh wait, did you say that Leland Palmer's daughter died? Almost as an afterthought, and they get so depressed. And I just love that they're gonna, the freshly scented girl. So from the perfume counter, so like we're starting.
We get another connection, another string to point to
Horne's
perfume counter.
Store. Yeah, so I think it's just an important moment, and I also like when they say they're going to take the boat, and the camera pushes in on the mural behind them.
Yes,
and crossfades into them going upriver.
I love that because it's like the mural of the fisherman and the boat and the water, and it's like, this has been going on forever.
Yeah.
These terrible, powerful men have been exploiting people in the town and women in the town for as old as that mural.
And you get all of that from just 3 seconds of like a push into the mural and the crossfade to the thing. It's just, I don't know if I mentioned this before. I think David Lynch might be an artist. Anyway, it's so beautiful.
I love the silence of the dinner that's juxtaposed with the music and the circus coming to town.
Yes.
With Jerry. And I love Ben's delivery of always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
So great.
And that is just fantastic. And then one note on the conversation.
Yeah.
It is kind of interesting, like when they are talking about why the Norwegians are leaving, why it fell through, that he does not mention. He knows why the deal went through. It was Audrey. But he's like, they took their translator with them. So it's just, even secrets among the brothers.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I didn't realize that. You're right.
And it's also interesting that cutaway to the boat scene, it's played at high speed. And then, and I know we jump back to a new scene at the Haywards.
Yep.
We go from Ben on the boat to a fireplace. So again, like if you start seeing these connections between Ben and fire, they're all over. We've seen them a few times now, but
I'll keep my eye out.
It's another one. Yeah, it's a nice little transition between the boat and the log because we're back at the Haywards. Doc Hayward and Eileen are going to bed, and they're going to leave James and Donna to talk the night away.
Well, not much of the night left.
It's probably like 9-ish.
No,
it's 12 o'clock later.
It's 12 o'clock later, but you can see the clock in the background, and it's about 11:45 whenever they wrap up dinner.
Because the next time they cut to this scene, they show 12. Yeah. So that was only a 15-minute
It was just a couple of minutes of them leaving. But they had just wrapped up having dessert, and it's like almost midnight.
Yeah, if you saw it. I always took it as it's 10:30, it's 11. It's like we got church in the morning, like all of that stuff, because they specifically show the clock at midnight next time. I was assuming they had been talking the night for hours.
Well, I think they were just enjoying huckleberry pie at the reasonable hour, like 11 p.m. That's great. I do love Doc Hayward being fatherly, trusting his daughter, but at the same time being like, "We're going to church in the morning, right? Like, don't get up to anything while we're going to leave you here." But I love that. It's great.
Yeah, Mary Jo additional dropping pies beyond cherry. Like we're into the huckleberry pies. Like there's more than just cherry in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
So Ben and Jerry arrive at One-Eye Jack's now. Now we've heard about One-Eye Jack's. We get to see One-Eye Jack's because it's a casino and a brothel in Canada. We're going to meet a new character, Blackie O'Reilly. It's the madam, played by the late Victoria Catlin, R.I.P. The brothers fight over who gets the new girl first, and the coin toss goes to Brother Ben.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like that they pull up to this marina, this little dock. The lady already out there waiting for them, all dressed up, and they have that card motif. They're like wearing playing cards as earrings, just like that motif going over. Great. But I think it's interesting, or I don't know, maybe interesting, but that they call up right away to let the bartender know to tell Blackie that the Horne brothers are there. We get that immediately, that these guys are no stranger to this place. I do love the way that the guys go up to the bar and they have this little exchange with the bartender, and then the girls come in on either side, and then Blackie comes sauntering in between them, and the way that she walks, she's all hips and shoulders as she's walking between them, which is pretty great. It's a nice introduction to her, and Ben starting to recite a Shakespeare sonnet to her as Jerry's just like, come on, man, let's get to this. Let's do it.
I love the line, the next stop, rocket science.
That's 2 double scotch on the rocks.
Next stop, rocket science.
Also something that ends up in my vocabulary.
You just say that all the time? Yep.
Yeah, that comes out a lot.
It is crazy, man, though, that, you see all these women come in. It's like, they're not naked or anything, but they're pretty dang close. And they're all, from what we're finding out, underage. And this is on network TV in prime time in 1990. It's kind of shocking to me.
Pretty racy, absolutely. I love that you talk about the young girls. The new girl does such a great job with no lines about being nervous and unsure of herself and feeling exposed, and the way she sort of fidgets with a curtain behind her or whatever. Like, that scene is fantastic.
You're right.
She doesn't know how to stand, and like just that bit, and you're in her head, and you can feel all the anxiety and how awful that these two trash guys are, the whole coin flip.
Yep.
And you mentioned the Shakespeare bit. I love that the music is building, and then when he cuts off, it stops the whole sound, and everyone's like, what about the new girl?
Yeah, let's do this. No, you're totally right to call her out. I mean, obviously she has a similar look to Laura as well, and she does so much with just her expressions and her mannerisms. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And we know, like, not only is this a weird situation, but that's her boss, because we know she's from the perfume counter at his department store. So she's seen him in other contexts. So it adds this whole other level of just creep factor to this, which is an interesting thing, like, to explore in 1990 or whatever.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We jump back now. We're back. It's midnight at the Hayward home, and James confesses finally that he held a secret love for Donna, and she feels the same.
These two are so doe-eyed in love, and just, it's so, I don't know. It's nice, but it's over the top at the same time. It is just very like teenager romance sort of thing. But James saying that he thinks that he and Donna would have ended up together anyway is sweet, but they were both holding it back because of Laura. I don't know. I have this note from whenever I was rewatching it, one of the many times then, where Donna's like, are we going to be together, James? Are we? And the fact that she didn't express her feelings for James because of Laura, the fact that she is this good girl daughter that does what her father tells her to do, even though, in the previous story she slipped out and whatever, got her sister to be her accomplice. But she definitely has this thing, Donna being controlled by other people. We'll see where that goes, if anything, but it's just something really stuck out to me of the way that, and it's the, especially with these two, we saw like a previous episode of, oh James, this kind of dialogue and just a lot of repetition of things like, are we going to be together, James? Are we? It's just this kind of almost dreamy, it's not quite all there. I don't know how to explain it.
I just take that reading as held this thing for James for so long.
Absolutely.
And she's in high school.
Yes.
And so she's just can't believe her fantasy is happening, and she's wrestling with this fantasy coming true and the grief that she has for Laura. But that's just how I saw that thing play out.
I don't disagree with that either. It's just we'll see where her character goes in time. But
yep. So we jump off from the sweet little moment there between those two, and we're back at Cooper's room, and now we finally get the official first time that Kyle MacLachlan and Michael Horse will act together over the phone. Cooper's going to get a phone call from Hawk, and he finds out that Ronit is still in her coma. He learns now, Cooper knows that she worked at the perfume counter at Horne's department store, and he also learns that a certain one-armed man was seen near intensive care. There's a knock on the door, and Cooper receives an aromatic note that reads, Jack with one eye.
The best part of this scene is Cooper coming into his room, standing there looking around, satisfied, pulls out the train whistle and gives a toot toot.
Yeah, and then the punctuation with his hand.
Swing. Yeah, it's
he's
great.
Just a dollop of joy, that guy.
He really, in this entire episode, the next scenes that we're going to talk about, he keeps amping up where this character ends up going. It's great. It's So
Yeah.
absurd. Hawk does say, he pursued the one-armed man, but he got away. But you recall the scene, it's like, you followed him down a hallway and then decided not to follow him anymore.
Well, we don't know what he did after.
I don't know.
He just sort of walks up to the camera. He's got the blue light, and we don't know what happened after. He may have gone down the steps.
There were 2 doors. He didn't know which one to go to, so he decided not to.
It's fine. You can't talk trash on Hawk.
The Jack with one eye, I do like that we talked about the freshly scented girl from the perfume counter, and now Cooper sniffing this note, and it seems to smell maybe like something because he has a reaction to it when he smiles.
So we're going to cut over to the woods now. We've got Mike and Bobby picking up the next cocaine drop, only to find that it's half empty, Dan. Mm-hmm. How many times have you... Leo is already there, though, in the shadows, and he demands the other half of the money. He learns that Laura had it in her safe deposit box. But he is unwilling to let that go. Leo also tells Bobby about his wife, Shelley. Turns out she's been stepping out on him, and a mysterious figure watches from the shadows.
It's a small detail, but whenever Bobby and Mike are walking through the woods to go find the football that's, tucked into this the hollow of a tree, you see them holding a flashlight and it's shining in the forest, but then you also see a point of view shot of their silhouettes in the flashlight as it's walking, which is physically impossible. It's surreal in a way because it couldn't actually happen.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't pick up on I always thought the image was great, but not that it's not practically possible. Unless the mysterious watcher was flashlighting them and being dumb about it. Yeah.
I honestly don't know who the watcher is. Like I said, I haven't seen this in 20 years, so who knows? I actually have no recollection.
It's a mysterious figure, and that's all you need to know. You don't know, is that figure with Leo? Because Bobby's like, who's that over there? And Leo doesn't even react, really. So maybe it's somebody with Leo. Maybe it's not somebody with Leo. This scene... I think about this scene too much.
Okay. Of all the scenes in this episode, this is the one? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. And it's so stupid. But the meanwhile promise is I will overthink every element. So in the episode 1, Mike and Bobby are in jail.
I went to see Leo because I had this money burning a $10,000 hole in my pocket.
What about the other half?
It's in Laura's safe deposit box.
So you didn't get it back from her?
She was supposed to hand it over today. Then she went and checked out on us.
So how are we supposed to get 10 grand for Leo?
They owed Leo $20,000, right?
Yeah.
Bobby says that he had a $10,000 hole burning in his pocket.
Yes.
So he pays Leo back. Laura's got the other $10,000 and they haven't gotten to him yet, and they owe him $10,000. He's calling Mike's family. I always thought that Leo gets the drugs. He fronts the drugs to Bobby. Bobby sells the drugs, collects the money, pays Leo, gets the next thing. The one line in this, he says that doesn't even cover half of what we paid for. Right. Breaks that.
Weren't you supposed to leave something in there for me?
This barely covers what we paid for. Where's the rest?
Where's the rest of the money?
And when we get to Fire Walk With Me, it gets worse because in Fire Walk With Me, he says, you owe me $5,000.
The football's empty. I'm looking for Santa Claus.
No way, you already owe me money. $5,000 to be exact.
The way where he's fronting the money makes sense, and it makes sense to what I remember being in the diary. And it also, from a character perspective, that makes a lot of sense. They don't have the drugs.
Wait.
They don't have the money, and they gotta pay Leo. Otherwise, it's, hey, Leo, I want to buy $20,000 worth of drugs. I guess we don't have $10,000. I'm only getting $10,000 worth of drugs. Is not as threatening as, oh my God, Leo doesn't have his drugs, and he doesn't have his money. God, I wrote Mark Frost. I was like, you got to help me out. I'm not alone in this. I also spent some time in Reddit, and there's multiple people that have
Wait,
this
were
issue.
you on the How to Sell Drugs Reddit, or were you on a Twin Peaks?
No,
Reddit?
I was on a Twin Peaks.
Okay,
Reddit.
that's too bad.
But but that one line, it makes sense when he says, I'm not a bank.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to give them anymore until he gets the money. He's not floating them money because they owe him money.
I didn't think that's how it worked. I would have thought that you... Okay, you're Leo Johnson. Just get into character for me.
Yeah.
So
I'm Leo Johnson, right? I'm running drugs. I need a way to sell those drugs in a high school. So I recruit high school kids, and I'm like, you can have as much cocaine as you want. Go sell these drugs, and then give me the profits back.
As opposed to someone, I want to sell the drugs, and I go to the guy that's got it, and I give him the money, and he gives me the drugs, and then I sell them, and then I keep that money. You're saying instead he's fronting them the drugs.
I'm thinking, I always thought that he was fronting
I
them,
guess it would have to
which
be.
would make sense why, oh my God, we owe Leo $10,000. And if we don't pay Leo $10,000, we're dead. Because otherwise it's, I just don't have $10,000. I guess I'm not buying drugs this week. Right? So, like, how do they owe Leo money if they didn't get the drugs? That's why I think it's a front. But Bobby says that one line. Exactly. It doesn't cover. This doesn't cover what I've given.
That's the part that you have the question about. Is yes, yeah.
Well, right, because the part when he says that line, it makes sense to what you're saying. Is a regular drug deal. Anyway, if I ever figure it out, you will be the first to know.
And then we're going to make so much money.
It's not an important detail, but it does get, when we get to Fire Walk With Me and we get to the deleted scenes from Fire Walk With Me, the missing pieces, they talk about it. Okay. They mention the money, and including you figure out how the $10,000 gets in Laura's safe deposit box.
Which I'm dying to know.
But that doesn't even add up to $20,000. So it's all fine. I love the flashlight work with Leo. Oh my God, it just reminds me of Dean Stockwell, one of my favorite scenes in Blue Velvet when he puts the light under face. I love any time someone's putting lights under their face. As a little kid, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. It's spooky, it's scary. The way that they light that scene, the contrast and the light, and when Leo goes from lighting his own face to lighting, I think, Mike at that point.
Yeah.
It's like perfectly composed. Yep. It's perfectly shot. The tension with that Bobby and Leo when they're talking about Shelley is just perfect. And again, you get more of the Leo's obsession with cleaning of the house that is like borderline mental illness at this point. Like, he's constantly talking about cleaning the house, and yet his own house is falling apart.
I love that Bobby is so nervous and like loses all of his chill whenever Leo's talking about Shelley stuff. Well, yeah, that's terrible. Do you know who did it? It's like,
right. Yeah, you know, like that's awesome. And you can feel him, and you don't know watching it. Does Leo know?
Right. Bobby,
because then he's like, go out for a pass, and that's in a very intense moment. Although I would say to Mike and Bobby, maybe check the football he threw. Maybe he threw the other half of the cocaine in there.
You guys, I was just
feeling. You don't know.
Leo, man, he's got quite the arm on him.
He would have played football,
I guess, so. But he was also throwing a deflated football, which seems like several hundred yards to land right on the car. That is a wonderfully tense scene. I don't know why he just didn't become a professional football player. Instead, he's driving trucks and running drugs.
Well, that's where the money is.
I guess so. Yeah.
Well, although I don't know. I can't figure out the money situation. I just want to know.
You don't have the head for it.
Because $20,000 is also a lot of money for high school kids to just come up with.
Absolutely. So he must be floating them.
I think the only thing that makes sense to me is that he's floating the drugs.
Yes.
They're snorting some of the drugs and selling some of the drugs, and then they owe him a certain amount of money back.
Yep.
Like, this, when you're done, you got to pay me $10,000. You can't.
Absolutely.
That's sort of how I would think it would.
There is one important part of dialogue that we did skip. Okay. When Leo says, Laura was a wild girl. Bobby says, tell me about it. And Leo says, maybe, someday.
Yes.
Which is really good. That is a really great exchange.
We also get Leo's catchphrase, Leo needs a new pair of shoes that makes its first appearance.
God, man. The only thing I don't like is he has the flashlight in their faces. He's intimidating as hell. He pauses, points the flashlight down at his shoes, and points it back up again and says Leo needs a new pair of shoes. Like it's a literal thing. I'm not 100% sure this actor is fantastic.
No, I totally disagree. It's fine. This is what makes this podcast different from other podcasts. There may be other Twin Peaks podcasts where the hosts agree on everything.
Yep.
We have disagreements on Leo.
Yep.
No, but we're going to go back to Big Ed's house where we will agree.
Yes.
Ed arrives. He's covered in oil and grease, and he trips over Nadine's drape runners and drops some grease on her cotton balls. Nadine is unhappy and surprisingly strong.
She really is. We just jump right to that. Like, when
I don't have much to say about this other than it's wonderful. I imagine you
pushes that rower back and bends the steel tubes. It is like you say, this is where you're either on board with Twin Peaks or where it's going, or you're going to get off at the next stop, because there's no reason for that at all.
Yeah.
And it's great.
But it's great because she's so mad that it's giving her super strength. That totally makes sense.
I will say, there's not a whole lot in this scene other than, I do love how
it's funny.
Starts, that it has Ed with his hands all covered in grease and kind of stumbling through. But like looking at the decor of their house too, like they have the stained glass it's such an unusual setup. They have the stained glass by the front door, but then we have these shelves that look like collectibles, it very much does not look like his house. It looks like her house.
No, she's definitely,
it is very
you get
much
the sense
her
she's
house.
decorated it, that he is trapped in this marriage or this house, and
Yes.
it's not even his house. Like
Yes.
he's spending as much time as he can at the garage or at the diner or wherever.
And we see it on a later scene that I'll mention then too, but he is immediately uncomfortable in his own home. And I think that's you can get that immediately from what's going on.
Right, because he knows he's filthy, he's going to make a mess, he's going to be mad at him, but you also get a sense that maybe he doesn't want to see her. Yep. So then we're going to jump over to the woods, and Cooper has Harry and the gang setting up a glass jar at a very precise distance. There's also a blackboard, and we get to see a glimpse of a wonderful array of donuts.
Yeah, another policeman's dream.
Yeah, something interesting is happening in the woods here, Dan.
Yeah.
60 feet 6 inches is the measurement.
Is there any
to follow along at home?
Yeah, any I was trying to think if there's any significance to that other than it's the
right distance.
It's just exactly the right distance.
I think that's all it is.
Okay, cool.
Back at the Johnsons, though, we catch the first sight of a soap opera that's on the TV. That maybe we'll see a little bit more of that.
Maybe.
Bobby arrives, and when he sees Shelley, he becomes very angry at what Leo did to her, and he promises to protect her, even if it means killing Leo.
Yeah. I mean, it is a nice, poignant moment of this invitation to love. Every moment's an invitation to love, and Shelley's just like, yeah, right. It's the juxtaposition of that is, just poor Shelley. That's all. Just poor Shelley.
Yeah, I mean, line Leo Johnson happened to me. Like, what happened to you, Leo Johnson? Wonderfully
it's great.
Delivered line as well. That photo of Leo on the TV is so funny to me.
Angry in the photo.
And it's just him. And it's the only thing sitting on the TV.
Yep.
Like, those little details are great.
And he's just like glowering in the photo too. It's like, I don't know, it's crazy. But you got Bobby at the door. She's just in such a no-win situation. She's got Leo, she got Bobby on the other side. I mean, she does care about Bobby, and he barges in.
You don't like Bobby, but this scene with him and her and his reaction, like, he genuinely loves her, cares about her. Like, I feel like that comes through. Now we're back at the Double R.
Yep.
Ed's in the doghouse again. He arrives and gets some time with Norma. I don't have any notes on here, so this is a great relationship.
Exactly. Anytime we get to see the two of them together, it's a good thing. Yeah, not a lot happens. We just get.
But again, it's strong like character work, and we're taking these moments to spend these little bits of time building couples, really. Like, we're seeing couples, we're seeing Bobby and Shelley, now we're seeing
James and Donna, we got
James,
Ed,
and each one of them is a couple that maybe shouldn't be together, right? Yeah. It's like Shelley's clearly married, Bobby had a girlfriend, and then you have James who was with Laura, and then so each one of them is sort of, it's like a forbidden loves all around.
Absolutely.
Which and it's a soap opera-y thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the whole time you have this new soap opera that's going to be appearing on the television that sort of contrasts it, and I like that. It's great. It's a nice touch. All right, so back in the forest now, we finally get to figure out what these guys are up to in the forest. The gang take a seat, and Cooper teaches them about Tibet, the Dalai Lama, and a process of deduction he learned from a dream. What follows is the world's greatest exposition dump in TV history.
It is really good. Before we get to that, though, we get this. Everyone's setting up for something. We don't know what's going on quite yet. And Lucy is like, anyone want to warm up? And everyone just swarms her for the coffee. Like, they're all so psychotic for coffee. And Cooper takes that sip and spits it out immediately.
Yes, it's hot.
Damn fine coffee and hot. It's so good. But yeah, we get the brief history lesson of Tibet, and that moment when they're all sitting. We got Hawk, we got Harry, we got Lucy, we got Andy, and they all just like lean forward in unison.
That lean in is
beautiful.
Great.
I love
the sound of the squeaking chairs and everything. It's perfect.
It's great.
I have to stop saying perfect. I feel like every time I describe the show, I say perfect. It's going to happen a lot. Like, as I was editing, and I was like, oh my God, if I had a nickel for every time I said perfect, I'd be dead. Yeah, if somebody did like a super cut of me saying perfect, I think the universe would collapse in and on itself.
Well, first, he's talking about Tibet, and he has this dream that he wakes up with a passion to help the people of Tibet. And also this intuitive deductive reasoning technique.
It's a twofer.
It's a twofer.
Yeah.
He got a lot out of that dream. But yeah, so he has this. We see that the chalkboard with the names on it. We have the quote from Laura's diary that she's nervous about meeting Jay. But then also on the chalkboard is a circled R and a circled T, which I'm assuming are the
letters,
the two letters that are pulled out from under the fingernails. Hawk has to hold the pail of rocks right next to Cooper so they're at easy reach. Yeah, but wear oven mitts.
Oven mittens.
You have to wear oven mitts
because he can't
physically touch it, which is so. They don't explain that, but we get it immediately why he has to wear mittens. Of course he does. He can't contaminate it. It's fantastic. But when they go through this and they decide to strike out Jack with one eye off the list because it's a place and not a person, but maybe it's a person in a place, and Harry gets frustrated with Lucy, and again, Cooper's just like rolls with it, just like, nope, that's right, Lucy, and moves on.
Bark it off, Lucy.
I love it. I love that he's this calm influence, and that Harry and Lucy, who knows what their relationship's been like to this point? Is Harry like constantly just like,
I think
Lucy?
he may be close to the I don't think he would ever lash out or be bad, but it's got to be frustrating.
It's so good though. But Cooper's just like, yep.
The scene is so good in so many ways. Obviously, as an exposition dump for a show that has so many characters, what better way to catch the audience up on who's who, how they're connected to Laura.
It's very natural,
and you get a shot of the actor or the actress. You hear a tidbit of how they're connected to Laura.
Yep.
The fact that everybody in our group has a role, like Lucy's doing, writing it down with Hawk and Andy there, like everybody's involved, which I just absolutely love. I love the idea that we're talking already about dreams. So we're establishing, like, in this scene that dreams are very important, and we're being prepared that dreams will show us the way forward. And it's because we're going to get hit with it at the end of this episode in a major way. But this is like that first sort of entryway into that new world, which I love. Just the idea of the throwing of the stones, and you get like mini clues. And as a kid, like, I would just obsess over, it struck Jacoby, but it didn't, like, what is that? Does that have any meaning to the thing about that? And then it's also a great way to say, like, okay, how's Cooper going to know what Jack with one eye is? He could say, Harry, what's Jack with one eye? And then that could happen. Or you could do a scene like this, and now Cooper knows it's a casino up north. They've already made plans to go there, so it just flows perfectly. One other anecdote I will add to this that I learned in my life on this planet. This all came from Uma Thurman is to thank in a way for this scene. Yes, because she had the Dalai Lama to her house, and David Lynch went to this thing and met the Dalai Lama, and that like inspired him. Like, and so when you hear about Cooper talking about like the plight of the Tibetan people, and I feel like that came through that meeting that he had with the Dalai Lama. So in a way,
that
you
is
can
incredible.
Sort of give a hat tip to Uma Thurman for having some hand in forming this in his mind.
Thank you so much, Uma. That's yet another great thing you did for us.
But I love it. I love the scene.
Yeah, I mean, same with the obviously there's the he strikes the bottle and it breaks when it's Leo Johnson. He strikes the bottle but doesn't break when it's Jacoby. But then there's Johnny, and it completely like hits a trash can. It's like nowhere near. So like, is there significance?
Same thing with Shelley too. I think Shelley is the one where he gets hit in the head, right?
Right, which is almost an interesting way of being like, again, reading into things that aren't there. It's a ricochet bank shot. It's like, it's not her, it's the guy next to her. It's Leo instead. So like, but the fact that it hits Andy in the head and you get this teasing.
There's no pain. There's no sense. There's no feeling.
Yeah. It's there's no sense, there's no feeling.
You old big dumb lug.
And even Andy's like laughing at it, but it's like he's trying to be like just like in the previous episodes when it's like, don't tell Harry that I cried. It's also he's just trying to be tough. He's just a heart on his sleeve. He's just like, it didn't hurt.
But it's goofy. But I love these
people are just absolutely wonderful.
And Lucy.
Just last thing before we move on. When they're going through the first couple and then Harry pulls Cooper aside, and just let me ask you, you say you got this all from a dream, and Cooper's just got that big smile, like, yeah. It's just like
that joy. That's what I mean.
joy.
Like that's the same level of joy as a page that's marked in Flesh World. Like these things for him it's just wonder and mystery, and I love the way he looks at life. But I love it.
What's also really important though is that Harry could be like, go two ways about this. He could go the direction we did, was like, okay, that's enough for me. I buy it. Let's go. I'm down. Or he could be like, this guy's fucking crazy. What are we doing here?
Yeah, in that sense, like he is the audience, like sort of
100%
saying
right.
like, hey, like, are you
Come
really?
with us.
And it's also a reminder too that it is dream logic, or dreams are maps to new places. So we jump back to the Double R. Donna and Audrey have a meeting and discuss Laura. Audrey had her issues with Laura, but we learned that she loved Laura for taking care of her brother. Mm-hmm. And we also learned Audrey has a crush on Cooper and asked Donna if Laura ever mentioned her father.
Oh, my goodness.
Bit of a clue there.
That part is crazy. I will just note, as we open onto the scene, we're at exterior of the Double R facing the mountains. I mean, it's the sound of wind is all we get in the very beginning. This really strong sound of wind as we come swirling into this, and Audrey comes flying into the door. She plays a song in the jukebox. Again, she did this in a previous episode, just dancing to the music, but she does that in this episode. It just... Audrey dancing is just an iconic moment. You can do a supercut of you saying perfect. I can do a supercut of me saying iconic, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, that's fine.
But it really is. It one of those like touchstones. You can just see a moment of that, and there's a couple other of those. There's just like, this is the show right there. I love it.
Angelo Badalamenti is just brilliant. Like the music is just so. Again, I was going to say perfect. I'm trying not to say perfect. I have no other words.
It's got that marimba or vibraphone that's in the background, like it sounds so good. And Audrey's sitting there tracing her finger around the circle of the coffee cup, and just like not looking at Donna. I was like, "Do you like coffee?" That whole conversation was great. That moment when she asked Donna, "Did her father ever talk about Laura?" and he used to sing to her.
Yeah,
chills. It's just...
Yeah, something's going on there.
You know his history of going to One-Eyed Jacks and all this. It's just like, ooh, it just gets really gross.
Right. All of that stuff is planted in the gardens of her heart. Like, we know he's going to One-Eyed Jacks. We know about the perfume counter connection. We know Ronette worked at the perfume counter. Yep. We know Laura had a copy of Flesh World that Ronette was in. We know that Leo's truck is also in that same issue of Flesh World. We know that Leo's told Bobby that maybe, he's going to tell Bobby something about Laura. So all of this stuff is just sort of going together. And that is a very haunting line. And if you're marking in your notebook, like suspects, Ben is definitely hot on fire. I love this whole scene for so many reasons. Like, when Doc Hayward says, "I wonder what she's doing down here," you get the sense that she doesn't really go to the Double R. Yeah. She's not usually down here. He says that I saw her at church. I wonder what she's doing down here. And when you come from, and this is me overlooking into things, you come off the mountains and then you come down to the Double R. It's like Audrey in her high tower has now come down among the common people.
Totally.
I also love when Doc Hayward just starts talking about 60-watt bulbs.
Yes,
that part is just in there. I love it. But yeah, the relationship of Audrey and Laura is an interesting one that we'll learn more about as we go. Yeah. And it's just cool. But other than that, she's so dreamy. Absolutely. I love watching the Haywards watch Audrey dance. Their reaction to being to watching that go on is great.
Totally makes sense. It's a weird moment, but it's beautiful.
All right. Let's go. We jump over to the sheriff's station, and Cooper is going to learn from Harry that Hawk discovered a bloody rag about a half a mile from the train car. And Albert and his team arrive, and Harry has some words with him.
That is a nasty piece of work, that bloody rag. It's so disgusting. Yeah. It's great. When Albert arrives, Miguel Ferrer is so young. He is so young. Him and the agents all look like they're playing dress up to me because they're all so young. And at the time, totally different point of view. Maybe it's just my age now. I'm far older now than he was when he played this role. But it's just, I don't know. It struck me immediately because that's not my memory. And obviously I've seen him in so many things. That's not my mental picture of him. So when I saw him here, it's like, holy crappy as a kid.
And because I have to by law, there's a Dune connection because his father, Jose Ferrar, was the Padishah Emperor, Shaddam Carino IV in Dune.
You mean, of course, Duke Leto Atreides, his father?
I mean Paul Atreides.
Thank you for giving the full title. That is,
and I like to imagine like he was in Dune, and then maybe Miguel was hanging around, and he was like, "Hey, we got to work together." I don't know. That's just in my head.
I love this the small moment of Lucy sitting there, and we get Albert's personality, his abrasive personality right away, which is terrific. But Lucy sticking her tongue out at him when he turns his it's wonderful. She's great. And she's reading a gigantic book about Tibet. It's just awesome.
Like that.
It's so funny.
She's now curious and she's trying to do her best to keep up with Cooper.
She calls into the conference room with Cooper and Harry to let her know that Albert's there. And Cooper tells him, that Albert's the best, but he does, lacks some of the social niceties.
Yeah, social niceties.
And he's like, nobody's perfect. And Cooper's like, that's right. Honk. He honks Harry's nose.
Yeah, that little nose grab.
Do you think that was like in the script or just a thing
I don't know.
Happened? Because it's beautiful.
I imagined it was probably something that David Lynch says, grab his nose,
and Harry has he's with it. He's like, that's great. It's just like
it's so funny and cute. I love it. I love it.
It is really cute. I do love that again. Another great moment of Harry and Cooper when Harry, Albert's there and disparaging the police department, disparaging the area. It's a backwater. It's welcome to amateur hour. All this, and then Harry pulls Albert over, and it's like you've got to be the best. Otherwise, if anyone came into my police stations talking like that, they'd be looking for his teeth 2 blocks up on Queer Street.
Queer Street, yes. I had that. Like, where is that?
Where is Queer Street? I mean, I've been all around, but I haven't found Queer Street. But Cooper's approving smile and big thumbs up.
Yeah, he approves of it.
He's like that's the right way to handle him. That was really well done. Perfect.
He definitely approved that. Albert is great. Again, like awful as a person to people,
Absolutely.
Treats people terribly, but is one of the most enjoyable presences on the show.
Right.
I welcome every appearance of Albert.
I would agree with that. I have a reaction to him like you were describing your reaction to Jerry. Even though they're both abrasive characters, I would anytime Albert's on screen. Great. It's great.
He's very charismatic. Yep. All right, so we're back at the Hurleys. Ed arrives home and is greeted by a very, very happy Nadine. It seems that the grease did the trick, and by God, those drapes are silent
They
now.
sure are. Again, so this is the other moment. Ed comes in, and he is almost literally like tiptoeing. He is walking on eggshells.
He is
so uncomfortable in his own home. It is such a great... Nothing's remarked on. It's just all in the performance, and he's just like waiting, and she screaming for him, and he's just like,
and you don't know if she's mad
at
or you don't know what's going on.
She comes running at him. The fact that she thinks they're going to be rich because her drape runners are so silent, and that look that she gives him when she demonstrates that they're silent, just this like complete look of like, isn't this the most amazing thing in the world? But Nadine, it's just what are you doing,
I like
girl?
that she is an inventor. And that she wants to be rich for them, so it makes it like a nicer moment. One other thing, I don't have much to say about this other than it's a great scene. David Lynch is in this scene because you hear someone go, "Good night, Ed," and that's David Lynch.
Good night, Ed.
I've never officially seen that, but that's David Lynch's voice.
When does someone say good night, Ed?
The very first scene, the very start of the scene, here's someone off camera say "Good night, Ed," and I'm not going to do David Lynch
I don't even think I heard anyone say that, so I wouldn't even. Okay, all right, there you go.
Fun fact, so you can play that scene again and listen.
I watched this episode 4 times and missed that. So anyway,
at the Packard house, Catherine grills Pete on what Cooper wants to know and seems very intrigued by his interest in Josie. Meanwhile, Pete slips Josie a key to a safe, and Josie opens it and discovers there are 2 ledgers. Go to your room!
Go to your room!
Go to your room!
That's all you need is just go to your room. The fact that they sleep in separate rooms.
That it's so bad he has his own comforter.
Yeah. He came in there just to polish seemingly just to polish his shoes, but to get the key to give to Josie was great. Just the whole thing.
Well, you say seemingly, like, I don't even know if that's a joke. I always see this as they were going to sleep together. So maybe there's something like, it seemed to me that he was planning on going in the bed.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe I'm just missing the point of it. But I always thought, and then they have a fight, and then he goes to his room. You're probably right that he was just there to get the key or do whatever.
That was definitely the pretense
and do the mink oil. But I thought, I always feel, and maybe it's from having seen everything, that he still holds the thing for Catherine.
Oh yeah.
And so like maybe sometimes they do sleep together, even if they're not going to have sex.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I think you're 100%
I always,
right.
because he looks like he's ready for bed, like he's ready to just get in bed.
Yeah, maybe.
And then she's kind of kicking him out, but I don't know.
I
maybe
totally
that's,
agree
that's
that
me
Pete
being
still has
too literal about everything.
Pete loves her. I think he's committed to the marriage. You know, we see that in the very first scene that we see Pete and her. He reaches out to her, and she completely is iced to him. So it's the same part of the relationship. Yeah, anyway, it was a great scene.
All right, so now we're at the Palmer home, and Leland is starting to slip.
Although, I'm sorry.
What?
We just Josie finding the
she finds
safe,
2 ledgers.
But I just want to mention, I just love the secret compartment of it all, like the bookshelf reveal to the...
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's always cool.
It's a minor thing that doesn't matter at all, but that's what we're here for. I just love it. I think it's great.
At the Palmer home, Leland is starting to slip. He plays music, which, again, if you're following the timeline, he plays music very loudly. If it was 12 o'clock when we were at the Haywards, it's like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. He's just blasting this music. Clearly wakes Sarah up. And he ends up cutting himself on a framed photo of Laura as he dances with her.
Again, this is the second time. The exterior of the Palmer house, before we go inside, you hear thunder in the distance. So we get that repeated again. Leland with the snap, snap, snap is just there's some weird mannerisms.
Electricity.
Yeah, it's great. But that you know, as he's twirling the photo of Laura around and telling his wife that we have to dance with her, we have to dance for Laura. It's just... Oh God!
Well, after the pilot,
crazy.
After episode 1 and all the Sarah stuff, now she's the one that's in charge because he's clearly broken at this point, and she's
right behind him though. She's like, "What is going on?"
She is, but she now has to be the one that's holding it together because Leland is definitely
trying to, but I don't think she's doing all that great. But yeah,
but when he breaks the glass and the blood, and then Laura's theme starts to swell, and that comes in. It's a very, very crazy scene.
Yeah.
A lot of grief going on in that house. What is going on in that house?
What is going on in this house?
All right, so back at the Great Northern, Cooper falls asleep. He has a strange dream. Mike, the one-armed man, recites a poem, and we meet his counterpart, Bob, the long-haired man from Sarah's vision. Dan, talk to me about Mike. Talk to me about Bob.
Yeah, so as some of our listeners who didn't skip ahead whenever we told them about it, the pilot, they're taking some of the scenes that were then used for the international version, so but now we kind of get them in the context of the story. The slowed down like flashes of seeing Sarah Palmer looking for Laura that morning, with the slowed down, really distorted sound of her saying Laura, but she's searching for her, is just incredibly creepy. And then we get this one-on man who we've only seen wandering the hospital at a couple different times. Hawk goes after him, but loses him. So we don't really know anything about him. So now we get him standing there reciting this incredibly creepy, I don't know, I want to say like Blake-esque poem, describing, you know, this wizard who's you know, inviting us to murder, basically. There's just like something going on here that's just layered full of meaning and indecipherable. And in the 20-something years since I first saw this, still trying to figure out what the heck is he talking about in certain places. He says one chants out between two worlds, and I'd always heard it as both a chant, like a vocal intonation, like he's a magician incanting a spell, or it's also, this is the one chance to get out of, you know, this in-between place that we don't know anything about yet.
It is chance, A-N-T-S. I know that from a direct conversation. Okay, it's not really a conversation. I tweeted at Mark Frost because I too always thought it was A-N-C-E. And so I asked him straight up, like, is it chance or chance with a T? And he said chance.
Which is great. I love that even the dialogue can have multiple meanings. So even if it is literally chance, like an invocation, I like that it has the double meaning. But yeah, this poem's great. And he talks about, he mentions the words that we saw scrawled in blood in the train car, "Fire, walk with me." So we get that repeated now. So it's again, like you had mentioned, we kind of get these things introduced to us and then revisited again. So we get this "Fire, walk with me." This whole, like, we lived among... His delivery of this is also so otherworldly. Like, is he a person, or is he like a thing that is shaped like a person and trying to talk like people do? Because, like, the way he says, like, we lived among the people, I think you say convenience stores. Like, dude, you're speaking English. You know what we say convenience store. Like, what is... So it's hard to understand, like, exactly what's going on, which is why I think this is so compelling. It's like there's layers of meaning and interpretation happening here. But I could keep going on and on about this. Eric, tell me what you think about this, having spent so much time thinking about it.
Yes, this is the portal to the greatest place in the universe, or the unknown universe. Opening up with the slow motion. We already talked at length when we talked about that shot of the overhead fan.
Yeah.
And Sarah Palmer looking for Laura, and that played in slow motion adds a whole other element. And it reminds me of, like, the part of The Elephant Man that scared me as a kid was when he was slowing down elephants walking, and his use of slowing down time, and it creates this uneasy, creepy, very strange feeling mixed in with the flashing lights that sort of harkens back to when they were looking at Laura's body. And the sound design in this thing is just fantastic. And then you get the poem that comes in before you see Mike, the one-armed man. You're hearing him.
Through the darkness of future past, the magician longs to see one chance out between two worlds. Fire, walk with me.
Through the darkness of futures past. Immediately you think, like, okay, well, what brings darkness? Night. And what comes with night? Dreams. When we talk about future and past, when we do get to the Red Room, like, we see Cooper and he's older, and let's say it's 25 years later or whatever, but we see Laura and she looked just like she did on the day that she died. So you have future and past through the realm of dreams to get to this thing. At the same time, these sort of two worlds together. And when you think about, like, what's the role of a detective that's solving a serial killer murder, is they're attempting to reveal the events that led to the victim's demise, which is the past. So they're existing in this time, but they're constantly looking to the past, while they're also looking forward to where the killer will strike next in the future. So they exist at this point between two worlds. Get the magician longs to see, Dan, because Cooper is the magician.
Oh, Cooper's
right?
the magician.
Driven by his intuition. You know, if this were D&D, he would have very high wisdom. I would add Major Briggs would have high intelligence. But he longs to see the truth of it, right? He is a seeker. And then you have the line, one chance out, C-H-A-N-T-S, as we discussed, between two worlds. So again, we have two worlds, the one we exist in, the other world, you know, the world of the Red Room. And how do you bridge them through this line, fire, walk with me, that you can chant out between the two worlds, and you can open this doorway. And then the line, fire, walk with me. I mean, fire is powerful, right? It's deadly, this deadly energy that will burn you if you touch it, Dan. And walk with me. So when you walk with someone, you walk among them. I mean it like it is, like it sounds. You know, you are walking with this entity, with this darkness, walking with you, right, like a passenger. And the idea that he was touched by the devilish one and the tattooed on his left arm, we know he's missing an arm, obviously. But now we have, like, this weird story connection to the severed arm that, you know, he sees the face of God, he's changed, and he takes the entire arm off, and the sound...
I took the entire arm off. My name is Mike. His name is Bob.
And it's just horrifying. And David Lynch was right to use him because his voice is so unique and it adds this magic quality. Mm-hmm. And my God, then we get to meet Bob and all of that stuff about the death bag. And he also, like, one note of making is that, you know, he's promising to kill again. So this cycle of death is going to continue. It is not simply a case of the past. It is the future and the past. Yeah, obviously, the candles, the whole thing blows out, and now we're in the future, right? We're in 25 years in the future. We get the older Cooper. We meet the man from another place, his cousin, who looks exactly like Laura Palmer. Dan, as you move into the Red Room, we are now meeting this man from another place. We are meeting Laura's cousin.
What I think is so incredible about this, beautiful, it's striking, this zigzag pattern floor, the liminal space, this red room, the red curtains, the way that they're backlit. We see the man from another place, this little man, and the way that he's moving, he's shivering, and you can't quite tell that something feels off about it.
Yeah.
And it isn't until he turns around and delivers his first line as he claps, rock. And with the subtitles under it, you see like what's going on. This whole thing is being played in reverse. And that dislocation that you feel because of it, that you can follow what's happening, but at the same time, it's very otherworldly. It's incredibly effective for such a simple thing of just reversing the action. And, you know, not that it's an easy thing necessarily for them to recite the lines backwards, you know, learn it by phonetically and say it backwards, but it's incredibly effective. So you have the three of them sitting there in this little, almost living room setup with the three club chairs. We have a little statue of Venus behind them. It's the Venus de Medici statue behind them. And there's a little Saturn lamp in front of them. Just this little tableau that they have set up. And Cooper's completely calm, but at the same time, everything is just so unusual and out of kilter. But yeah, I don't know. It's just such a striking thing. It is one of those moments that, you know, lives indelibly in your mind about this is what Twin Peaks is. You have that sound as the man from another place sits down and he's rubbing his hands together, and you get this what sounds like a Tibetan prayer bowl, maybe, or something. Something like that. The sound of like a ringing bell in the background, and the black silhouettes kind of. Do you have any idea what those are?
The things flying in the background. Yes, I'm not sure what other entities in this sort of pantheon of strange creatures or whatever, and you know, entities that are existing in this world.
Exactly, but there's something else there with them.
But you mentioned the prayer bowl sound. Like that is a sound we will hear again in the second season, also in the return. So it's cool that we're sort of adding these elements and they're going to be returning.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, are there other entities in this space? It almost makes me think, it feels like you're in an aquarium and you can't quite see the sharks in the water, but they're just like swim by. Are they? I don't know.
Yeah, we are definitely between worlds at this point.
Incredibly unsettling. I mean, it's just really great. And just the conversation that they have, you know, the man from another place saying, "I've got good news, that gum you like is going to come back in style," is such a strange, almost non sequitur.
Yeah.
And I'm always puzzled over that as well. Like, what does he mean by that after all this time? And the only explanation that I could think of at the time was, or you know, after the fact, was that around this time in the mid 80s, they reintroduced these three gum flavors. There was clove, Beeman's, and blackjack gum that had been a nostalgic thing.
We had talked privately about this before. I've never known what the gum you like is coming back into style, other than stuff I will not talk about now. But it was always sort of a strange mystery. You had mentioned that. It sounds vaguely familiar, like maybe I did hear that before, but do you remember who it was tied to?
No, so the gum itself was like, blackjack gum was the first flavored gum that was ever introduced in the United States. And it was very popular in the 50s. And as we know with Lynch, so much of his vision and iconography is rooted in the 50s nostalgia. Even the look of, you know, the way that Audrey and Donna dress, everything, it feels like the bobby socks and the saddle shoes, it has that very 50s nostalgia. So I kind of always read it that way. And the fact that it's Blackjack Gum, Blackie running One-Eyed Jacks, just like, is that the connection that we're talking about?
Or did you just find a connection that just existed and he was not aware of it, and there it is, and you've now found it? Because there's connections in all of this stuff, right?
That could be.
You know, you can create these things, and then after the fact, you see the meaning in them. I mean, that happens personally to me all the time, where I'll write something, and then after the fact, you can go in it, and you're like, oh my God, I'm a genius. That means that, and you can connect those dots, and so that's very cool, whether it was intentional, the gum thing, or not.
But yeah, there's plenty more in here. I mean, we're talking about this being his cousin, the man from another place's cousin. She looks almost exactly like Laura. She says, I feel like I know her, but sometimes my arms bend back, and the pained look on her face.
Yeah, they're dropping a lot of little clues and things to write down in our diary on this one.
I never quite knew, though, that Where We're From, the Birds Sing a Pretty Song.
Yeah, that's one you got to write down in your diary. We will talk about that later. Yeah, I will not say what that is, but that's
I don't know if I've ever really connected those things together. I mean, maybe I did at some point and I've completely forgotten because it's been so long.
Yeah, let you forget so that you will find the joy, because that is one of my absolute favorite scenes of all of Twin Peaks.
Fantastic.
I mean, they're all my favorites. I don't like to rank things, and here I am saying favorites. One of favorites, if there's multiple favorites, but that particular thing is so cool. I love that thing.
Well, I'm so glad that I have no long-term memory whatsoever.
And that is like a lot of these things that we're finding out in this dream are things that will manifest themselves at some point in the future, either as clues or confirmations of things, or just a path is made by laying one stone at a time, right? And these are lots of stones on our path forward. You talked about the backwards talking thing. If it's not obvious to everyone, you know, you sort of touched on it. What they did was, you know, they filmed the whole thing in reverse, and they said their lines as if they were spoken in reverse. So you'd say it forward, and then you would play it back, and you'd try to match what that sounded like. But one thing that's so cool about this is this was an idea that David Lynch had wanted to do. And the actor that plays the man from another place, it's a guy named Michael J. Anderson. Lynch had worked with him before, or tried to work with him before, on that Ronnie Rocket project that I had mentioned. They could never get it off the ground, but at some point it was in a state where they were thinking about cast. And so Michael J. Anderson was going to play that. So that's one of the reasons why he's sort of in Twin Peaks. They had an existing relationship. But he had said to him, like, I want to do this backwards talking thing. And Michael J. Anderson was like, yeah, I used to do it all the time when I was a kid. Which to me seems like nuts that you would... The idea, just having that idea on its own is like not something a regular person's going to think of. And then to ask the actor who you want to do it, and they're like an expert on it. So Michael J. Anderson was actually very helpful on the set in getting Cheryl Lee and any other characters that we may see in the future that will talk in this fashion. So I always thought that was so cool. But there's so many great kind of interesting things here, like that you talked about, that hand rub. Now, that's something I do all the time, that hand rub. Like when I'm doing my stims, I do the hand shakes. And I also do this if I get too much stuff going on. So that's always something that I didn't realize. I'm like, is that why? Did that just sort of implant itself into my brain? And that's why I'm sitting here having my issues. But there's a couple things I want to talk about. Like Laura touches her nose, right? So it's like, okay, cocaine. Like we've got sort of that thing. You talked about the gum coming back into style. When we talk about Laura's cousin, doesn't she look just like Laura Palmer? It really feeds into this whole idea of doubles. So we've got Twin Peaks, obviously right in the title, Twin Peaks, there's two peaks. We've got the double R. We've got these two worlds that we're sort of bridging here. We've got two halves of a heart-shaped necklace. There's two ledgers, right? There's two Horne brothers. Most characters have multiple relationships. Two Mikes, two Bobs. Invitation to Love is a soap opera that lives within a soap opera. So just the idea, this is going to be a continuing motif that is going to run through this show. The end of this little sequence is just so cool too as well. Laura Palmer gets up, she kisses Cooper, and she whispers something in his ear. And the man from another place. We keep calling him the man from another place. That's how he's listed in the credits.
Right.
Totally makes sense. That of course he is. Yeah. And then it sort of, we fade out, and now Cooper has woken. But the sound of his dream is still, it's not just background music. We're not fading away. Cooper hears it because he's reacting to it. He's trying to hold on to that beat by snapping his fingers.
Yeah. Immediately wakes up and calls Harry to let him know that he knows who killed Laura Palmer and to meet him at the Great Northern for breakfast at 7 a.m. But yes, it can wait until the morning. The little gag of him sitting up and he's got his hair kind of twisted up on one side. Everything else is perfect. He's got that helmet hair except for that one like fin going up on the side. It's really great. But he delivers that line and he says he hangs up after telling Harry that to meet him in the morning. And he's sitting there snapping, like you said. He's trying to hang on to the fragments of that dream. He's still kind of living in that space. And you and I have talked about this before, but I feel like there's something unsettling in his eyes to me. Like we have Cooper, who's like super joyful, like you had said, the moment of like a dog-eared page in Skin World magazine.
Yeah, in his Flesh World
magazine is like is super like a kid in Christmas. Like there's a clue and he's ready. This is not that to me. This is. Yeah, he's definitely trying to hold on to the thing, but he also looks to me in this moment like he's someplace else entirely. There's nothing behind his eyes. He's like not himself at all.
Yeah, I don't see that as much as you, as for him not being himself. But I think you're nailing it
not
right on.
I think, I guess, not saying he's someone else. I'm saying
I think I agree with you that I think you've nailed it. He looks like he's existing between two worlds. Like he's still in. The reason why he's hearing the music isn't because the music is in our world and in the other world. It's that Cooper is between two worlds.
Yeah. And it's unsettling too, because Cooper is almost, not that he is this touchstone.
Yeah. See, I don't find it unsettling either. It's more
of
me just like cutting a picture of Cooper out in the shape of a heart and putting it on my my wall.
That me of cutting Cooper out and putting it on the wall would be him giving Harry the thumbs up after he told.
That's also there. I have a very
after saying that he's going to find his teeth up on Queer Street, like that thumbs up is perfect.
Yeah, but that doesn't unsettle me in the way of so much of this show does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For me, for like that, like when I see that, it's not that I don't get that type of reaction because so much of this stuff does make me feel sort of off.
In the best
way. When Mike says I took the entire arm right off, that's like, oh geez. This is like when you talk about two worlds, I think that's it.
One last thing that we didn't mention. There's a lot of dancing in this episode. We have Audrey dancing in the diner. We got Leland dancing with Laura, her photo, and then we end with the man from another place doing his crazy dance in the strobe light in the red room. So it is a theme that continues through.
There's dancing almost in every episode of Twin Peaks if you think about it. Like the last episode, this one, Audrey dances. Audrey dances when she has an exchange with her father.
Yeah, that's true. Audrey's always dancing.
There's dancing. There's dancing guys in high school in the pilot.
Oh,
I think there's
dancing
more
at the
dancing.
Roadhouse too.
Dancing is a thing that is music and the way music affects people goes all through the series.
That is true. Yeah. All right, then never mind.
So that's the end. That's the end of the show, and now we have the credit sequence where we have Dance of the Dream Man is playing, and he's dancing, and it's not Laura's photo. Like this is one of the only times, I think the only time that we don't have a credit scene with Laura's photo.
Yeah.
Just Dance of the Dream Man.
It's just fantastic.
But we get to see their official credits, though, right? So we get, it's Killer Bob. It's the One-Armed Man. We talked about Man from Another Place is how he's credited. Michael J. Anderson.
It's fantastic. This is a banger of an episode. I hope that I hope you, our listener, some of you listeners are actually watching it for the first time and listening along with us, and I hope that you got as much out of this watching it the first time as we have seeing it a number of times. It doesn't get old. There's so much going on in this episode, so many things that are going to come back and pay off later, like Eric mentioned. It's just top to bottom such a great episode. Anyway.
No, it's good. It's very well done. The next one we're going to jump into is called Rest in Pain, so look for that on your favorite streaming platforms, although I really recommend you pick up the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray box set is just beautiful. The packaging is wonderful. I know they have like an A to Z box set that you can get now, or Z to A maybe, that includes everything. So you get season 1, season 2, The Return, Fire Walk with Me, Missing Pieces. It's all in one set. But yeah, so until next time.
I might be putting that on my Christmas list. Sounds good. All right. Thank you, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Meanwhile podcast with Dan Johnson and Eric Grissom. If you would like to support the Meanwhile podcast, you can leave us a donation by visiting ericgrissom.com/meanwhile and clicking on the support link. If you like our show, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're hearing this now. Meanwhile is produced by Eric Grissom and Where's My Robots? The Meanwhile theme song is written and performed by Paul Finn and Evening Pines. If you want to let us know what you thought of the show, you can reach Dan at danjnj.com, both on the web and on Blue Sky. Eric can be found on Blue Sky at ericgrissom.com, which is also his website. It's also me, right? That's weird. We'll see you again, and in the meantime, be good.
Listen to the sounds.
Meanwhile.